Hello, everybody. Good morning. Good morning to you. Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. I was intently watching the Munich Security Conference. Europe has woken up after many years, it seems, finally. But more on that later. I continue to enjoy creating this app for you guys and for myself. You guys will have access to this soon. Again, you can do, this stuff is getting so good now with AI. Like you can easily do power regressions, quantile regressions on the Bitcoin price by yourself with ChatGPT or something. But I'm trying to make a sort of scalable, global approach to many different things that I talk about. And I got a good one for you today because something that I was not necessarily manually calculating, but just took me a long time. It's amazing how quickly you can throw that together with a looped calculation with AI. So I'm excited to show you guys that this morning. Here's the old power curve. All right, go down here, 96.1% R squared, 5.77 slope. Okay, about 40% per year is the curve, 40% per year, which is enormous. All right, and over time, the curve looked like this. I should probably make it bolder, but it's this gray line. That's how the curve actually looked, and we're gonna analyze that in a second. To, I think, interesting results. Let's say we'll look at this in a second more of what this really meant for Bitcoin at the time when we had data at the time. All right. In any event, I'll take this off now. If we just sort of look at all the data up until today, we get this curve. All right, this is a quantile. I'll show you my multiple regression as well, which does take this into account more. But anyway, this is now what this does very simply. And, you can follow Plan C. Cena, they try to do a little bit of or Sminston as well, tried to do a little bit of a fit here, declining this last curve here to these points. I'm not doing that. I'm just straight up running a quantile regression, which just fits the best R squareds that it can per quantile. And you can see right here, I don't know, maybe you can't see it. I think maybe you can't see that because of my screen, but there's a 64% pseudo R squared right here for the 100th percentile. So, it doesn't have a lot of data to pass through, so it's not the best fit, right? Remember the OLS, the actual sum of least squares is the black line here. That's a 96% R squared. And a lot of the other ones towards the middle are also high R squareds, right? So the median is here, right? That's also basically rounds to 96% R squared. Q50. Anyway, you run the calcs. You can do it yourself with ChatGPT as well. But I'll try to keep improving this for you guys. Here's where we are. Here's where we are. And I actually have this till today's date, but and we can project out as well, but it's sort of finicky still with my days. There we go. 68K pulling in for today, and this is all-time data. So you see what happened here. Peter Zion was very excited on Joe Rogan. The Bitcoin was $17,000 over its value at 16,000 right there. And we're coming in on this. All right. There's a lot of bluster on YouTube, on Twitter, I'll continue to be content with my caveats and my disclaimers. I was very skeptical of the cycle being fully over, and the fact that we're here keeps the cycle intact. Do we bounce along, this level, or maybe hop up to this level within the year? Who knows? We do the reverse Bart Simpson. We do the normal Bart Simpson often in these markets. So we're just going to see. Right? Obviously, institutions came here. Okay, so we kind of front ran some interest. Now we're back here. And again, if you liked Bitcoin at 120, if you like Bitcoin at 126, I don't see why you don't love it at 60 or 70. These are the trends. All right. And let's just go out to 2030. 2030 December is what I want to go to. Just here. All right. Getting closer to 500K than 600K. I have to say, especially when you look at the quantile, notice how these red lines none of these lines are parallel. They're all sort of figuring their own little regression out, just like the black line. They're all independent of each other to some extent. Notice how they all sort of converge here. It does. I was more optimistic that we'd get closer to 600,000 by 2030. Now I'd say it's looking like we're getting closer to 500,000. It is what it is. All right, it is what it is. This is how it looks on the quantile. All right, and then if we look at the OLS, when does it hit 1 million? I should have it here. Yep. This is 2033, and the 50th percentile is not quite there yet. So if you go to 50th percentile, 2033 August versus 2033 May. June, May. Good morning, Oscar. I love it. I love it. I think he said changing the production 50%. 50%. No? Because that was what I was talking about. And we can go back to that chart. But yeah, for sure, we do use gas. Bitcoin's different. But, it's a shock. Every 4 years, it's a shock to miners, even if they know it's coming. Okay. I honestly, I forgot about that, or I missed it. If you said 5% in gas, I missed it. Gotcha. But anyway, we can come back to it and look at it again. I want to get some more now. Finally, with this better software, it's going to be so much easier for me to do regressions on a lot of different topics. But here's what I want to get back to. This is a fun one. All right. We have the power curve. We can see where it goes. But as I said, right, that's not exactly how it looked. It didn't look like this beautiful curve all the time. Right? In the past, it looks like more like this. Goes up, down, up, down. I know it's not the best actually to see on this video, but this gray line. And it gets pretty close to the all-time from 2016. But now I can show you, here's the old power curve, here's that evolving. Now it is green line. Let's look at the today's forecast. And I have it daily now. Before I had it monthly, now I have it daily. And this is pretty fun. So just to show you back in the day, all right, when, I had very thin pricing data, You're jumping. This was the Slashdot article. Bitcoin went up 10x from like under a penny to 10 cents. A lot of developers got in here at this point to Bitcoin. I never measured this. In fact, this is the August 2010 price for Bitcoin today, February 16th, 2026. It's $492 quadrillion. There's a quintillion right there. All right. And then rapidly falls. This is log scale down to the end of 2010. This is the number that I would publish a lot. And you can still see it on my website. Is 8 billion. 8 billion. So 2010 was a wild year. 2011 also wild. But we went from quadrillions of dollars forecasted today to only the billions. All prices we'd be happy with. All right, 2013, you know, when Bitcoin gets well ahead of its trend, we get better prices. So at the end of 2013, or sorry, this is 2011 still, 2011, 170 billion. Okay. Yep, that's where we were right here, 170. Then we go down. 2013 boom, 1.7 million. Okay, so this blue line is the projection of today's price on February 16th, 2026, based on only the data at the time as you go down the line, basically, or up the line. Yeah, it really is. Thanks. This is really fun. It's really fun. And now that we have this daily, you guys will get it eventually here. But so 2013 top, right? And then we extend a little bit because just things take some time to smooth out. Topped out actually 6 months after the 2013 top, projecting $1.8 million Bitcoin price today. Down we go. And then I'll come back to this because if you remember, this is actually the lowest point after this deep crypto winter is the term. And you guys know I'm not a crypto guy, but 2017 May is the bottom. And then it pulls back up, right? We go up with these prices. We go up with these prices in 2017 and in 2021. But generally, what's going to happen is as we get closer and closer till today, we'll meet at today's price. And this, again, it's a couple days off. I can zoom in just to show you, but they meet at 129.3. So the power curve today is 129.3. But with every little bit of data less, you know, it is typically higher. And there was someone that was noticing that last week, which I agreed with. But here's the interesting thing. We're actually not at a record low, even though, of course, we're below market, right? We're below fair value, so to speak. We're below the trend, all right? Price is well below trend, right? Nearly half. 70 divided by 130. Yeah, absolutely. This is just as important, is to think about, you know, hyper-Bitcoinization doesn't work with this chart. And that's why I try to follow all these broad money supplies as well. It just doesn't work. But it's no less exciting. So the point is, yes, it's true as we, as I'm pointing at the green line here, not the blue, but as we go up over the evolving trend, up over the evolving trend, and then down, you just pull today's expectation up and down, right? There's no stock to flow stuff here. It's just based on the midpoint of supply and demand, which is price. And we can see that we've been pulled down, right? Specifically, because we haven't had major booms. All right, and here I'll show you the deviation curve. This is just simple deviation from the trend each time, the evolving trend. Okay, so we haven't had these major booms above trend really since 2021, right, where we went 150% above trend. Okay. So we get pulled down, right? So instead of 170K power curve for today, we get pulled all the way down. But the key is we're not at the all-time low, which is fun. It should be a sign of some optimism because the lowest was in May, and I don't actually remember. Let's find it together. Is it 122.6? Looks like 122.6. So this is a number that I never showed you before, but because we have this nice evolving daily regression now and forecast. The worst projection ever of Bitcoin's price today occurred all the way back in May 2017 when Bitcoin was actually $1,800. Which is bullish. I mean, that's not bullish in like the short term, 2 weeks bullish, but it's just amazing to see that as this thing gets ironed out, as the volatility gets removed and the thing becomes a stabilized, adopted asset, we actually haven't been at a record low. All right, so to be clear, today's prices is of course under trend. Nobody's denying that. But the trend is 129.3. Right? See it right there? Today's price, 68,000. Evolving trend, 129.3. Today's forecast, 129.3. Right? So these things meet. And the lowest was about this, 122.4 or whatever. Was it 6 or 4? I can always forget with all the numbers in my head. I think it was 6. So we have about $7,000 worth of power trend price to spare based on all-time data. And here's another thing. You know, these are, even though we're pulling the trend down every day, right? We're not in this nice, let's take off the forecast. Even though we're not in these nice days where we pull the trend up, right? We're pulling this green line down every day, pulling it down. Notice that the trend itself goes up, right? It goes up $100 a day. And this delta is going to increase more than $100 a day. So at the moment, we're going up. I need to show you this chart. I think I don't have it clean, but oh no, I do. We're going up like 365. No, 50. Why can't I even do that? $100 a day would be 36,000 a year. But by the end of the year, it's going to be close to 60,000. So let me show you that one. In any event, point is, I'll show you in a second. The trend itself marches up just like other things, right? Your milk price gets more with inflation. So does the trend line growth of Bitcoin. This is not any sort of voodoo math. This is actual hard statistical analysis. And a 96% R squared, which is not showing here because these are evolving trends, not all-time trends. So this is a really fun one. Really, really fun. We got $7,000 worth of room to spare. All right, again, now let's go out. Let's go back here. If we look at all the volatility of the last 7-8 years, 2 cycles, right, we're getting close to the bottom. I don't know when the bottom is, but we're getting close. All right, and that is relative to the trend at the time, 65% deviation down. We've only gotten to 45. Could we hit 65 this time? Maybe. Maybe we do it on a knife right here, like right when the crazy year of 2020 started. And then we all know what happened in 2021. Maybe that's something like this. And by the way, 2027 matches up with Stephen Perno's harmonic elongated cycle. But in general, I mean, look at that volatility. That is these deviations, right? Back in 2021, and of course these were positive things, but you'd be deviating 40% a day in 30-day periods. Now we're only deviating 8, sometimes 2. And over the course of the year, 14, 15, okay. But it's clearly coming way down from what it was. All right, here's my evolving trend based on a multiple, which is still not, the chart's not up to scratch, but notice this is a little bit wacky now. I'm evolving the multiples and the trend, but bottom line is where we don't necessarily look at, I'm showing the OLS for reference, but we don't necessarily look at that. We see, okay, where's the trend at the time, and then how many multiples over or under trend was Bitcoin at any given time. And I need to get the multiple in the tooltip. I don't have it. I'll get it there eventually, but the multiple will be up, down, and then if you remember, if it's calculated correctly, and it should be, the 90th percentile right now, which is here, it's about 2x the trend. All right, so the trend is 120.93, as we saw. 90th percentile, 255. So a little bit less than 2x. And yes, since this is a log chart, I know that I'm cheating because this would work much better for exponential. It works, it's much more imprecise, much less precise on log, right? So here's the straight line on log scale. Let's zoom in. It doesn't really work that well, but anyway. It just gives us a guide. All right, so we go down to see where we are right now, or more precisely where we were here. We were under the 20th, not quite at the 10th, and now we're at the 20th, not quite at the 10th. And you have to do the math yourself because I don't have the multiples here, but it's, if I remember correctly, the 10th. The 10th is basically 10%, right? So 15K, no, sorry. The 0th is 10% actually. The 10th is what? 27%, something like that. So anyway, 0x or right on the trend, or sorry, 1x, 1x right on the trend would be here. All right. So it's a different way. It's a less precise way than this. This is more precise to use these quantiles, and then you sort of see where these bands really get close is a better indication of where price could go. This less likely, this less likely. Here, plenty of data to show that we stay in this range. Plenty of data. And yeah, I would say revising my earlier predictions of being closer to 600,000 by 2030, when you actually look at this, you know, more hard and cold numbers, it's going to be closer to 500,000. It might be 525, whatever. but you're going to be, well, again, just considering that we happen to hit the trend at that time, which is a huge if, it's going to be closer to these values, right? Which are low 500,000s by the end of 2030, which is really the start of the next decade, but some, people like to go to the end of 2030. Mid 500s, low 500s. Not bad, huh? And if these lower bounds are what actually the cycle will show, then everybody's going to be disappointed with $300,000 Bitcoin. All right, that's the deviation, that's the multiple. Here's the old monetary base. This is the real world comparable money supply to Bitcoin. Quite delayed, I know, but this is just how it's going to be. Because I'm still getting, I have gotten, but it takes a long time to get broad money and all these other things that I want to compare with the monetary base. So you're always going to have about a 5-month lag here. 4 or 5 months. So back to end September, Q3, $27 trillion. All right, so Bitcoin's $1.5 trillion or less market cap is comparable to this. And for interest, this is kind of an East versus West thing. Of course, Japan is a Western allied country, and Taiwan even, I'm putting. Hong Kong has unfortunately fallen, but we'll see. We're going to see. Xi has purged his generals, and we're going to see what happens here. But India, Vietnam, Australia's here. India, Vietnam, Philippines, Indonesia, Nigeria, South Africa. I'm putting sort of Brazil. All those other economies are in the rest of the world category. And there'll be plenty of exhibits where you can slice and dice this any way you want when I get this thing released. But this is how I'm doing it right now because I like it. That's what they're going to be saying, man. I mean, think about, I'm telling you, the fact that people are bearish at 70K BTC, this is when I remember right here, people were like, how could Bitcoin go to 100,000? How could it go to 130,000? Well, look, with the data that we had by end 2017, it was projecting just that. And yeah, we're missing it by almost half right now, but we weren't last October. We're pretty close. It's remarkable. I'm telling you guys, the power curve, according to Bitcoin's movement, is a remarkable thing. I'm not trying to be political here. I'm actually just trying to be just raw numbers. China was actually had more money relative to the world back in 2008. 26%. Now they have 20%, but growing. And actually, even here, there's a couple new ones that might throw this off. It might be closer to 19. Here's gold. Yep. I still see him. On my channel. Here's gold over 55 years. Three booms. And we're in the thick of the highest one right now. Congratulations if you're there, but be careful. Caution. So really, almost exactly the end of last month, we set a record. Not on a monthly close. By the way, this is much better. Remember before I was doing those were monthly numbers. Now I even got daily for you. So you can see even with more refined detail where these bands are. And as you can tell, it should not take a PhD to see that this is quite different than this. This is a straight line on log scale. This is a curved line. This is actually stronger growth, more powerful growth, but the rate of change is much lower, about 5%, 5.5%. Let's look exactly. I think I have it here, 5.4, 5.4%, 78% R squared. That's this black line, 5.4% per year compounded. Silver, just as volatile. Let's look at the slope of that black line, 3.8% per year. Now, to be sure, if you bought, say, here, when Gordon Brown was selling the UK's gold, you bought silver here at $4. You're loving life right now. Great returns. Nothing to say. I'm just saying, look at the trends. It's an exponential asset, exponential asset. Here's a power asset. And this is actually more sustainable. And here's a power asset on log. Let's look at some bugs. You can see that line there is annoying. But this should be the chart that you really can't unsee. If I could make it see clearly. There we go. In my opinion, it's quite hard to unsee this. And if you look at, I don't exactly know what they're doing with their little harmonic thing, but it could have to do with the evolving slope here. So, right, we go here, 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 and then we have a little bit longer to come down, and now we're down. And then the theory is, I believe, again, I haven't audited Stephen's work, but you'll get another bump, right? Another outsized bump here in 2027, which is fun. It's only a year away. How likely that is, I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't know how to measure that. I don't know how to quantify that, but they have done some extra math, which certainly is going to take some extra assumptions, right? But it's always so annoying with this. Little bugs. It's more or less that they're expecting a bump, just like here, just like here. Let me take off let me even take off the middle ones so you can kind of see what I'm talking about specifically, right? It's this gray line. It's an interesting idea, right? Here's 2020. Sorry, again, the tooltip, this bug. I know it says 2010 in the tooltip, but the date at the bottom is correct. So whatever, 2027 is going to be somewhere here. Theoretically, it's going to be going up. Couple things on the political front. Again, you guys know I'm hardcore on security of the free world, even though we have the escape hatch of Bitcoin. This is a survey in the United States, 2,200 US adult citizens. Make of it what you will, but it's very odd to me that certain individuals, not all, there's Maduro down there, but certain, Kim Jong-un and Vladimir Putin, seem to be Trump's chums. There's Xi, there's Khamenei, not even as low as he should be. MBS quite low. But this is an extremely unfavorable rate here. Tells you something about the United States with some of these mid-level. Lula, Starmer even, that there's a lot of don't knows. All right. But at the top, Zelensky at the top, Carney at the top. Carney's even got a lot of don't knows, but Zelensky doesn't. All right. So no matter what people are saying, Zelensky is relatively favorable compared to the dictators. And I just think it's wild that Trump has a picture of him and probably one of Putin's lookalikes in Alaska by the White House, like East Wing door or whatever. First step is Hungary. Second step is going to be the US in September. These are going to be the main thresholds for democracy. You know, Russia still has elections. They're quite rigged. Kasparov knows about authoritarians. Right? So if people say, you know, we've been proactive to make sure we have the right people voting, electing the right leaders to lead this country, it's not good things. Just got to show this one again for my European friends. I don't think you're going to be able to hear this, and I wanted to have subtitles, which I might have not put on here. But I'll just play it. You might be able to hear it through my computer, and then so this is the top diplomat of Europe, Kaja Kallas. I'm a big fan of her. Criticizing Rubio's speech, which is much better than Vance's last year. Vance's is so naive and so ridiculous to say that Russia and China is not a threat, but the enemy within in Europe. And she's saying, I come from a country where press freedom in the world is number 2, and I'm hearing criticism from someone who is 58th on the list. Interesting. Again, I don't tweet enough to get a lot of probably fanfare for my tweets, but this is, maybe Nick will explain to me. I know him. I always thought he's a nice guy and everything, but he's really going hardcore on this quantum risk and actually institutionalizing himself, it seems. Talking about how BlackRock and institutions will just have to fire code developers. I can already show you the hellscape. All right, the hellscape exists in Russia. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter banned in Russia 2022. Signal, Viber 2024. FaceTime, Snap banned last year. WhatsApp, Telegram, YouTube fully banned this year. YouTube's been throttled for years. Like, unless you have a proxy, which many people do in Russia, you're not going to be able to watch YouTube. You have not been able to watch YouTube for years. WhatsApp was the last remaining Meta product. Now that's completely banned. There is, look, to argue, let me go back to this. To argue that Bitcoin needs to be developed by the same people that developed this is a fool's errand. If Bitcoin is to succeed, there is no way that you can just bring the umbrella of development under the same people that make this money supply. Right? As my buddy Fernando's old teacher said, Jesus Huerta de Soto, you know, central banks even holding gold is kind of this virgin prostitute idea. Doesn't really make sense. They kind of do it to say that, you know, they have some link to the past. Ben Bernanke said it was tradition when he was questioned by Ron Paul. It's true that there are varying degrees of authoritarianism around the world, but there are bright lines. But Bitcoin itself cannot be captured by any one of these countries. Right? Imagine being a Bitcoin developer in Russia. Like, it's just, it's an embarrassing thought. Right? I'm sure there are Bitcoin mines in Russia still, mining for the government, mining for Putin. Right? He knows that that's money that can't be controlled. There is no way for the Bitcoin project to succeed while also being brought under any institutional arm. There's just no way. So that's my thought on that idea. He's really going at it with this quantum stuff. It's going to be a wild year. It's going to be a wild year, guys. I don't know what else to say. The Americans get it. All right. If we're gonna act like the American Bill of Rights is somehow the savior of the world, which I think there was an argument maybe 50 years ago, or even 40 years ago, when Ronald Reagan said, you know, if we lose freedom here, this is the last place on earth. There's nowhere to run to. That argument is, of course, I do not want the United States to go the way of China and Russia. I do not want that at all. But this is just insanity from the Department of Homeland Security saying we're going to get the right people elected. This is Orban stuff. This is Putin stuff. And the American people get it, even if they are deluded or confused or don't know a lot about these like, you know, look, all right, 43% don't know about Macron, not bad. 70% don't know who Maloney is. 78% don't know Lula. Even Milei, all right, our free market guy who takes a lot of Trump bailouts down in Argentina, 72% don't know. It's not looking good for old Trumpster right now, and MAGA, but he's not going where the will of the people are. He's not going towards the favorability ratings. People say they want to help Ukraine. People say they want to fund Ukraine. The United States hasn't funded Ukraine at all in over a year. I am encouraged by this list generally, but I would also say, look, I mean, we're in 2026. We're not in 1936. And to try to just come in, which though Rubio did a better job at the Munich Security Conference, but to just kind of come in and say, we love you, we support you, we're children of Europe, but, you know, you got to keep up your Christian conservative free values. And I'm not for 1 second denying the risks of unchecked immigration. We know very much about unchecked immigration on the border of Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, Poland. Lukashenko and Putin have been sending migrants across the border from, you know, direct flights from Iraq and Afghanistan since 2020. You can just look that up. But we're not just going to sit back and have an increasingly authoritarian country try to lecture us. That's what I would say, wearing my European hat. So while I have a lot of hope for the American voter this fall, it is going to be a wild one. First step's going to be Hungary. We're going to see. Hungary's rigged the votes just like Putin. Hello, Sradan. Yes, we'll do that. Yeah, I don't see anybody denying that it's a risk. I think Nick's view is that they're not taking it seriously enough. Perhaps that's your view as well, but I haven't seen anybody denying that it's a risk. I hear you. Good morning, Satoto. Good morning. Well, here's what I'd say about that. Use that as one benchmark, not the only. Right? And don't go to just one source, go to many. You know, go to Reporters Without Borders. Don't just use the Heritage Institute, which has become quite toxic. Use them all. In fact, I've been thinking about trying to get their indices actually into my database. Not as a, you know, canonical description of how a country is, but you know, you can still have a guide. This is a guide to where, you know, the money is in the world. It's better than an index because it's actual figures. But I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. Yeah. I would not say rely on just one, and I'm sure she was picking the best one when she said Estonia is number 2 and US is 56 or 58 or whatever she said, but this is you have to at least have some dignity, right? I have all sorts of criticism for Europe in many ways, especially, you know, Eastern Europe, Poland in particular. We've been raising the red flag, or whatever the word is. We've been raising the alarm, 5-alarm fire bells for Russian aggression for 20 years. It was 20 years ago, 20 years ago that Litvinenko was poisoned. By the way, I'm sure you guys saw, if you didn't see, that Navalny was confirmed poisoned by frog poisoning, rare frog toxin, confirmed by 5 governments. All right, this is not just like disinformation or propaganda. This is confirmed, unequivocal proof by different labs. And, you know, Russia will try to deny these things, but at the end of the day, it's just they don't care about a free society. And so what I would say when we talk about Bitcoin is you have to keep it as free as possible, decentralized as possible, distributed as possible. There's no way that something like this would fly in the Bitcoin world. And it doesn't matter if we're talking about a few billion or a few trillion. Certainly not when we're only, less than a tenth, now less than a fifth of this number. Sorry, less than a tenth, less than 5%, not a fifth, less than 5% of this number. The Bitcoin network. There's no way you can just say, okay, BlackRock, you can fire all the developers. And obviously it doesn't work like that anyway. There's some good blogs over the years back to the scaling wars. Again, I'm not a developer, obviously, but Jameson Lopp's written a lot about how actually, the coding process works in Bitcoin and getting something actually fully activated. It's hardly something that could just be captured by BlackRock. And I think it's just weird that Carter's going on this tirade. Yeah, Twitter is not a good spot for that, I would say. Had lots of that during the block size wars. The block size war was probably the first thing that migrated from Bitcoin Talk to Twitter. And most people agreed that Twitter wasn't a great spot to do it, but we're still doing it. But there are other places where it's taking place. Yeah. Glad you're reading it. It's a wonderful, 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 wonderful book. I would encourage you to watch watch the foreign ministers' speeches in the Munich Security Conference. All right. These were great. Great videos. And here you had Senator Slotkin, who, again, I'm not a Democrat, but she's a pretty normal senator, young, not a geriatric senator in America. She's talking about the moment that Americans are having. But Sikorsky is so eloquent, in my view, of a society that needs to have their eyes open to the threat. I just really respect him. I really respect him. So if you haven't watched his speech, or this panel in particular with Slotkin, I thought it was very, very good at the Munich Security Conference. But I agree with you, man. It's there's no hard and fast way to fix this stuff. There are hard and fast ways to break it, right? The United States is a long way, to be clear, from turning into what Russia is. Long way. But if I had to look around the world and I had to compare, say, the state of United States politics, even with the state of the far right groups that are sort of coalescing, but also have it very awkward for them when Trump threatens to take over Greenland. It is bad. I'd say the U.S. is the worst right now of if you looked at all the countries except for Hungary, of course, and they're trying to turn the corner with this election. But it would be unacceptable for Bitcoin to have developers that is just, because institutional investors want their volatility smoothed out or whatever. And I know he's wrapping it around the idea of quantum risk all the time, but look, volatility gets smoothed out all the time with Bitcoin, right? And yes, quantum is going to be a risk, but so was the block size wars. That was a risk, right? Taproot was a risk, which seems to be even a bigger risk, by the way. If you have your coins in Taproot, that's the most vulnerable to a quantum breaker, let's say, quantum computing breaker. But all of this stuff is vulnerable to quantum. Every digital ledger, whether it's centralized or decentralized, is vulnerable to quantum. Every single cent in this chart. Probably. Probably right. Thank you, Tim. Yeah, I mean, there's a variety of proposals. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I haven't. Again, I'm not the best person to talk on this channel about that stuff, but only because it's just not of my. It's not in my interest, not in my crosshairs. But I would say a person that's done really thoughtful work on this is Troy. And even this, I would say, like here, so Troy Cross, he put this at the end of the year. Probably a good analysis. Right? 3 groups of people. Quantum computing is 3 to 10 years away. Quantum is a scam. 10 to infinity years away. 3, I have no idea. I guess 90% of investors are in group 3, and they won't do enough research to jump to another group. So I would put myself in, I have no idea. I mean, I generally don't know the technicalities of how quickly it could come. But he's trying to break it up in that, it's a strong power curve, right? There is a huge tail as far as those people that actually know what they're talking about with quantum, and those that don't. If you don't follow Troy's, great follow for updates on quantum. I haven't even. People are definitely working on it. Every single cent is going to be broken here if something could break Bitcoin. I noticed, by the way, speaking of BlackRock, and I believe this was the Munich Security Conference as well, that Fink was talking about this. I don't think it was WEF, or maybe it was. It was WEF, actually. It was WEF. So again, tongue in cheek, it doesn't begin here. I would say this is a long, Blythe Masters in 2014, 2015 saying the blockchain revolution. Now Larry Fink's at it. Now Nick Carter says we need blockchain developers, BlackRock developers are the only ones that are going to take Bitcoin development seriously. Look, this is not the first time any of these narratives have been brought to Bitcoin in the name of helping Bitcoin. If you go down this road, this is what hell looks like. No matter how good intentions you try to pave it, this is what hell looks like. And it's true. The Bill of Rights in America is a very important thing. It's protecting freedom not only for Americans, but all around the world. But it doesn't mean you bring Bitcoin development into one Wall Street institution or a consortium of Wall Street institutions. This is what hell looks like. And you don't get there by decentralizing. This is the fun one for today, though, guys. Enjoy it. All right. We used to have a $492 quadrillion Bitcoin forecast, which even I was not aware of until I ran this daily. Claude Code helped me get to this level. Used to be 492 quadrillion, 514 quadrillion Bitcoin price predicted for today. It's come way down, way down. And these predictions have been much more accurate than an exponential regression, than a stock to flow power regression. Stock to flow is a power regression, but it uses exponential coefficients like gold and silver. It gets very, very close. And even though it's going down, right, it's not the lowest. Right? That's my message for you today. We're not at the low. The low is here. Something like 122.6. All right, so we are doing just fine. 45% discounted from the trend. That's all right. 46.7. That's all right. If you love Bitcoin at 130, nothing is guaranteed in life, but I'm willing to bet that this green line gets back to this green line within the next 2 years. All right, from crossing here to getting back, it took April 2022. Took 2 years. I'm willing to bet it takes 2 years again. Not financial advice, my friends, but that's where we are on a Monday. I got a lot of great charts coming. We're going to get some more economic stuff, Bitcoin stuff, and you all are going to get access. Please support me, though, if you can. A lot of this stuff is on my website, my BTC Pay server. And I enjoy talking with you guys about this stuff. Thank you, sir. Hey, thank you, Tim. Good night to you. Thanks for your contribution, Oscar, Satoto, and sorry, I missed your name. It's Shraden. I definitely I'm not taking quantum lightly. I think, at least from my side, I'm not, but we'll see. Thank you so much. All right, guys. Have a great week. Talk to you tomorrow.